Were you on the teleconference earlier today with Mickey Loomis?
I was, yeah.
So I would love your impression of anything he said or maybe didn't say, because I'm always amused by it, the thought that any GM or coach might actually give any insight into anything the day before a draft.
Well, this is year number 15 that I'm covering the draft and covering the Saints while they draft. So that means year 15 of hearing Mickey Loomis, bob and weave. And I feel like even the questions at this point, people know that you're not getting things out of them. So you got to almost frame questions in some sort of ridiculous way to try to pry an answer out of them. Just like the question I asked about does Christian McCaffrey's contract influence the way you look at Alvin Kamara's contract, thinking maybe I can outsmart him to say, oh, well, we talked with Kamara yesterday, and look, we're not going to have a deal, or hey, we're absolutely going to have a deal. And, of course, he says, oh, I haven't even been thinking about that. So that's,
he's given no thought at all to Alvin Kamara's contract.
Yeah, never heard of him. Who's that guy? I have no clue. Yeah. Look over there. Look at the shiny stars over here. But no, it's I think a lot of the questions today were predictable, just about how their process is with the virtual drafting and their aggressive nature or conservative nature as far as with prospects with red flags and this and that, because we already know that the Saints are aggressive when it comes to trading. We already know a lot of the needs. And even though Sean Payton will tell you all the needs, Mickey Loomis won't tell you any of the needs. So it's almost like you got to know which questions to ask each guy in order to kind of get a sufficient answer.
Larry Holder's our guest on Twitter at Larry Holder. You did take a stab up at theathletic.com at a mock draft. So what did you do for the Saints?
Well, here's the thing. It's the first time I've ever done one of my mock drafts in all the years I've been doing Saints mock drafts. I actually ran a simulator. So I said, all right, whatever the simulator tells me, here's how I would react if I ran the war room. So that's how I did it. And I thought it actually came out to be pretty good, because I pondered trades up, maybe trades down, maybe a drastic trade up, maybe a trade to like number 19. But as the way that board settled, it was pretty crazy, because it went Jordan. I keep wanting to say Jordan. It's not Jordan. Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson went, I think, at like pick 21. And then the Rams simulated a pick to trade right above the Saints and took Kenneth Murray at 23. So I said, all right, Patrick Queen, here we come.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I took it. But to me, I've seen my colleagues and draft pundits that I trust, and when they do their big boards, they have Jefferson going before the Saints, they have Murray, they have Queen going before the Saints. And so I wonder what happens in a situation if that happens to the Saints at number 24. What do they do? And I think that's, to me, the bigger question of, if Queen's on the board, do they take him? I feel like if those three guys are off the board, because we've been still pounding those three names, pounding, where do they go if those three guys are gone? They obviously have to pull some sort of curveball with a guy we might not expect, that we haven't talked about a ton, or trade back, which we haven't seen them do in the first round, I don't know, ever in the Peyton Loomis era.
All right, take a stab at it. Because I did this exercise yesterday, Larry, because I was on with Golick and Wingo, and they're doing their mock draft, and Queen was gone at 23, and so I had to pick at 24 with Murray and Queen off the board, and Jefferson was gone as well. So I took Jordan Love at 24. What would you do?
I would use Jordan Love as trade bait and trade down.
Okay, you can't trade.
Well, then that's not reality, because you can trade.
I know you can trade, but for the benefit of this exercise, what I'm trying to do is see what you would do as far as a need for New Orleans. Is there a prospect or a position that you would target if the linebackers are gone?
I would target wide receiver or corner. I'm not taking Jordan Love at 24. I'm not. I'm just not going to do it. And I feel like and let's just talk in terms of the Saints, if they would take Jordan Love, then they're admitting that they're not totally sold on Taysom Hill.
But they're not.
Well,
didn't they admit that last year when they invested $7 million in Teddy Bridgewater for one season?
But they let him walk, and then they said Taysom Hill is their number 2 guy, and they're going to bring in a number 3 guy to quote-unquote develop. Sean Payton said that this offseason. So,
or a number 3 guy that could be a veteran backup to be in the same role that Teddy was in this past year. He just said they're going to bring in a third quarterback.
So then if they do that, then why draft Jordan Love? Like, I'm not opposed to them drafting Jordan Love. I just feel like that they are adamant that Taysom is going to be their guy.
Okay.
So if they draft Jordan Love, then they are not adamant, and I'm fine with that. Like, people have kind of misinterpreted. I've talked to you about Jordan Love, and I even go back to the combine when people I talked to that I trust were telling me that they're not totally enamored with Jordan Love, and so obviously things can change. But I was surprised to hear that about the Saints and Jordan Love, and so I feel like some of the interest you're hearing, wow, all right, the Saints are doing their homework on Jordan Love. Well, they do their homework on like 350 prospects.
Yes.
Like, so if they're not stupid, they know that Taysom Hill is their quarterback. You still need a number 2 behind him if he's your guy going forward in the future. So you've got to do your homework on every quarterback humanly possible going forward. But I feel like that news could be smokescreen for someone to trade up. But if you took Jordan Love and Jordan Love is there and they take him, then they're not totally sold on Taysom Hill, which I am fine with. I'm just saying that when I keep talking about the Saints aren't enamored with Jordan Love, it's under the assumption that I'm getting from the team that they're sold on Taysom Hill. So that's where I come from there.
So in your mock draft, which is up right now at theathletic.com/New Orleans, you go to Larry's Twitter account, @LarryHolder, and see the link there. You have the Saints trading down from 24?
I have them taking 24.
Okay, you have them taking Patrick Queen at 24. You have them making a second-round pick. So how did they acquire that pick?
I went and traded all the way up to number 33. The Bengals picked pick number 1 in the second round, and I took Jeff Gladney, the corner from TCU. And I feel like I'd have to trade next year's 1 to make that happen, but I did pick up a 6th-round pick. And people are thinking, well, why would the Bengals make that trade? 1 pick out of the first round, this, that, and the other. Why would they do that? Don't they need help now? But people need to understand that a future 1 is still worth more because you have a 5th-year option attached to it. So you can get a late-round pick. So that's how that trade would work. But I just feel like Gladney would be someone that could go in late round 1. He would be someone if, say, the Jordan Love thing is there and I could dangle him. I would trade down 3 or 4 spots somewhere, and I would take him late first round. Now, I don't know if any of those teams behind the Saints would want Jordan Love, so that's where I'm coming from there. But if there was a player there that they really say the Ravens really liked it and they wanted to move up 4 spots, I would be cool with the Saints trading down and taking Gladney. I just feel like he's a 4-year starter, very productive, and he's 5'10", 190, but I'm not going to be scared off by that. I feel like he can be a future starter for the Saints, and I feel like he's a little more consistent than maybe some of the corners that could be lurking around, and I'm including Christian Fulton in that too. I feel like Gladney would be more consistent, at least from what I've seen and what I've read up on Gladney, and I've seen Christian Fulton play a lot, obviously.
So we're going to talk about the LSU guys because we got you for 2 segments, and I also want to talk about what's going on in the NFC South in the next segment. But quickly, let's run through what you did with the rest of the draft, including picking up a receiver in round 3 with Texas's Devin Duvernay. LSU fans got to see him this past year. What's the thinking there?
I think he's just someone who could be kind of one of those underneath guys. If you're looking for a slot-specific guy, he certainly would be it, and definitely got speed, was very productive last year at Texas. And so I think he, at that point in that round, I said, all right, and I didn't go receiver either with my first-round pick or the second-round pick that I acquired. So I feel like I feel like round 3 you could still get a good receiver. I think that's more of where I'm coming from. Like I would like a Van Jefferson there too.
Mm-hmm.
He's not fast, but very good route runner, good hands. And I could just tell you with Van Jefferson, I heard a lot of his name spoken about at the combine. And I'll bring up Christian Fulton again. He said at the combine that defending Van Jefferson and studying him made him a better corner because Van is one of the best guys he faced last year. So, but I think it's more along the line of I still think you can get a good receiver in round 3. So don't feel like you have to jump and go get one, the 6th best one at 24 if you don't really have to.
Yeah. So a lot of the conversation in this draft is that it's such a deep year at receiver and corner, so there would be value. Running back with Antonio Gibson in round 4 out of Memphis, Nick Harris, a center out of Washington in round 5, and then you do have the Saints taking a quarterback, Anthony Gordon out of Washington State in round 6. Why?
I look at 5,000 yards and 70% passer completion percentage, and if Sean Payton wants to quote-unquote develop a guy, why not go there? And because you picked up this extra pick, so it would almost be Lanyap anyway. So I feel like he's someone who, not in the same mold as probably Taysom Hill, because he's not going to be as athletic and doing all these other things. But at that point in that round, if I'm going to get someone to develop, I feel like he might be a guy that they could look at.
Anthony Gordon, the quarterback from Washington State. Then you have with the second 6th-round pick, Jonah Williams, a defensive end from Weber State, who I have no idea anything about him at all. Have you seen him play, or you just like scrolling boards to see?
Well, thank goodness we have Dane Brugler, who does do the film work on all these guys.
Good.
So I just read that, I look at his measurables, and he's a 280-pound defensive end, and I feel like, okay, I mean, he's the size of Tim Jordan. Why not give it a shot? Small school guy. Why not give it a shot? I mean, at that point,
sure,
these guys would just fight to make the roster.
Right. I got to get a thought on what Tampa's doing. Giving up a 4th rounder to bring in Gronk at $10 million a year for 1 year, like, make sense of this for me.
I'm assuming that this might have been part of the deal when Tom said, "Hey, I'm coming, Tampa. Why don't you bring my guy?" Okay, and then Gronk's thinking, all right, well, I can come hang out for maybe a year or two in sunny Tampa, and, a lot of retirees go hang out in Florida, so why not? But, look, I feel like that you bring Gronk in, and it's certainly someone that Tom Brady is familiar with in an offseason where he's going to be playing with a lot of unfamiliar parts. I get that. Look, do I think those two can still play and play at a high level? Yes, I do think so. So do I think that improves Tampa? Yeah, I do. And yet I feel like, and people keep asking, oh, my gosh, what do you think? Is Tampa going to be the favorite now? And I still don't have them as the favorite. I think it makes them a little bit closer, but I still think the Saints are the favorite in the division. And I feel like that the Saints could use this as almost kind of like an adrenaline boost, because I feel like that last year the division came so easy. They cruise control through the division, and it hurt them late. They cruise control to the playoffs and lost. So I feel like, that there's some sort of mental thing where with the Saints they could take this and say, everyone's saying we're done. Tom Brady and Gronk are going to come in and take over the division. And I think maybe it kind of keeps the pedal to the metal for the Saints, and I feel like that this could be something that they can embrace.
It's an interesting take, man. I just look at Gronk, and honestly, Larry, the last time we saw him in 2018, he was a shell of what he was. He just wasn't a dominant player anymore. And now a year away, and having to give up a 4th-round pick to get him, and costing $10 million, like, I don't see the value at all.
Well, I don't think Tampa cares. They see Gronk and Brady, and they see ticket sales, and they see, oh, my gosh, people are going to be talking about us. I think that's part of it. But also, I do think that Gronk is definitely not the same big, bulky guy he was when he left. I mean, he's definitely dropped some weight. And, I mean, let's be honest. If he wants to be the same kind of player, blocking guy, some guy who's very physical, I mean, he's going to probably have to bulk up a little bit more, and he's been very injury-laden. I mean, we know that. So I feel like the showcase value is there. Tampa's going to sell out. There's no doubt about that. Do I think it could be a benefit for Tampa? Sure, but I still feel like I just said, that I still feel like this is still the Saints as the favorite in the division, and could be a little bit of a mental edge for the Saints to kind of keep their juices flowing, pedal to the metal.
Interesting take. On Twitter at Larry Holder. Let's start with the LSU guys. Of course, Larry covers LSU also for theathletic.com. How many guys in round one?
Oh, boy, our answers probably changed since the last time we had this discussion where we were thinking 5 or 6. I will say I'm going to go 3.
3?
I'm going to go, yes, I'm going to go 3. I'm going conservative. I'm going to go Joe Burrow, Caleb Chasson, and I'm going to go Patrick Queen. I can just tell you that people are definitely all over the map with Christian Fulton. They're a little bit all over the map with Grant Delpit. And, look, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be drafted higher than maybe those two. Like, the Chiefs might go and get Clyde, and it might help them offensively. So I feel like I'm going conservative here with just 3.
I'm stunned that you don't have Jefferson. I mean, he seems like an.
Oh, I forgot him. I'm sorry. Gosh.
Okay,
4,
so Jefferson makes 4. So
Jefferson is a no-brainer. Yes,
I'm
Jefferson
with
is
you.
a no-brainer.
So 4, I think, is the no doubt that you mentioned. The 2 defensive backs are a giant question. Because, man, Larry, I've seen Christian Fulton mocked as high as 12, and I've seen him, and I could see a scenario where he lasts until a run on cornerbacks in round 2 somewhere in the early 40s.
I'm with you there.
And then Delpit, man, it's stunning because he was a surefire top 10 pick before the season. He plays hurt, and now it's like everyone has dropped him into round 2, which is just stunning to me to see, because I don't know how you feel about it, but I think Grant Delpit, provided he's healthy, which certainly looks healthy now, is going to be a surefire, decade-long starter, perennial Pro Bowl safety in the NFL.
Yeah, I think we have seen him at his best, and not everyone has. So I feel like the skepticism around Delpit, I'm with you, maybe isn't as warranted. I do feel like that he could definitely be that free safety that if you can allow him to play, center field and do his thing and kind of be a ball hawk, that he could do that. And people are going after his tackling skills and this, that, and the other. But I don't know a ton of free safeties who are known as these tackling machines. I mean, I feel like that's where the big knock is on Delpit. But also, look, Delpit was making those plays when he was healthy the year before, and we know he was banged up. So I feel like just like when we talk about, man, Joe Burrow's so good, and you have these detractors who want to nitpick this, that, and the other. Bro, we've seen him, and he's a stud. And I feel like I'm with you with Delpit. I do understand some of the question marks with Fulton. He can get a little nicked up. I do feel like sometimes, the numbers that you see aren't totally as indicative as to the way he plays. So I do get the shakiness of him a little bit. But I understand where you're coming from. Boy, if he drops around 2, and I feel like there will be a run at corner early round 2, that he'll be in that mix. But I'm with you. I think people are sleeping on Delpit. I'm kind of with you there.
Does LSU break Ohio State's record of 14 players drafted in one draft?
Ooh.
Do you want to make the list? Have you done the list?
I have not done the list because I'm trying to think of the back end. Like,
okay,
who might or might not be drafted.
So let's do this like out loud here. Okay, so we know.
Let's go. Yeah.
All right, so we know Burrow offense.
Yep.
Burrow, Jefferson, Clyde, Moss, Sullivan. Is Stephon Sullivan going to be drafted?
He's a shaky guy. That's one of those 14, 15
guys. All right. So then Lloyd Cushenberry is a yes.
Yes.
Do you think Sadiq will get drafted?
Yes. Here's the thing that I think people will look at him and see a capable player. For us, I probably feel like we might slot him lower and be more leery because we've seen some of the things that he's gone through, whether it's, the off the field thing. So I think we might be lower on him than maybe some other NFL.
See,
but I do think he's drafted.
For me, it's one of those things where I just look and I go, sometimes guys who have positive drug tests get just taken off a team's boards altogether. That's my only question with Sadiq. What about Damian Lewis?
could be mid-round guy.
Okay.
I think he's so he's definitely getting drafted.
So that's 7 on offense with the possibility of 8 if Stephon Sullivan goes, which I think Sullivan did enough at the Senior Bowl to where he's going to be a day 3 pick. So I think you're talking about 8 offensively. Then defensively, Chasson, Queen, we know are yeses. Rashard Lawrence, yes.
Yes.
Braden Fehoko?
I would say no right now.
Okay. So we'll go no. Phillips is going to get drafted.
Yes.
What about Divinity?
I think people would take a flyer on Divinity more than they might on a Fehoko. So I still think he can get drafted. So let's put him in the Sullivan category of because I think he has the ability to play in the NFL.
And then we know Fulton and Delpit are going to get picked. So when you look at it, Burrow, Jefferson, Clyde, Moss, Lloyd Cushenberry, Sadiq Charles, Damian Lewis, Chasson, Queen, Rashard Lawrence, that's 10. Phillips, Fulton, Delpit, that makes 13 with the possibility of Sullivan, Fehoko, Divinity, which would put you at 16. And we haven't even talked about Blake Ferguson yet, who might be selected as a long snapper, which gives you the possibility of 17. And Larry, if you want to throw Adrian McGee in there, you could throw him as a unlikely, but a possibility. I mean, there's a possibility, at least a possibility, that 18 guys could get drafted. Could you get to 14 or 15 to tie or break that record? I think so.
I think you could, because there are definitely some variable guys. Everybody you named will be in an NFL camp. I mean, that's. Don't forget, like, these guys could make teams as undrafted rookies.
Yeah.
So those are, that's definitely a possibility. And it's funny because the local nature of I get to see these guys play all the time, so I almost kind of lean too much local in this draft. Yeah. But it's like, and people get on your case. It's like, why wouldn't I want to go and draft LSU players? They only had one of the best college football seasons in creation.
Right.
They obviously have good players. You'd be stupid not to draft some of these guys. Like, so don't tell me about that. It's not one of those years where it's like, oh my gosh, boy, I think Danny Etling's going to be a 3rd-round pick. I mean, no, but it's just silliness. Like you have to account for all the LSU players that are available.
The flip side, though, and I'm completely with you on that. I lost my train of thought. There was one other thing I had to ask you. A mid-round pick that maybe people aren't talking about a lot that you think could pop in the NFL. Could have of the guys we mentioned that could have a really good NFL career.
I think Damian Lewis could be that guy. I think that he could be a good guard in this league. I think he's someone who could. That to me it seems like an easy answer, because I've been high on Damian Lewis. I feel like he can play, and if you're good in the interior, you've got a good career in the NFL. You can go a long way. So I think Damian Lewis is my guy, mid-round guy, who could almost kind of be. I'm not going to say he's going to have the career as Trey Turner or somebody like that, but someone who I think of in the kind of the same light, and they can go in and play. And potentially play right away.
See, for me, I think that's Sadiq Charles, because he can play guard or tag. He can play 4 positions on the line. It's just a matter, and he's athletic enough. It's just a matter of our team's going to trust him. So this was the point I was going to make. Think of there's always the unknowns in the draft, right, Larry? But think about a guy like Anthony Johnson. He went undrafted. You know what I mean? Like, even though his LSU career didn't live up to the 5-star rating and what the expectation everybody had for him, we all made the assumption that he was going to be a draftable player. He went undrafted. So we're gonna be back here on Monday going, man, I can't believe this guy went unpicked. But it's still, I think, going to be a record haul. I think they at least tie Ohio State's record of 14. I do think if you made me bet money today, do they break that record? I think they do. I think they get at least 15.
Like I said, I feel like it's the back, like the very last ones we're talking, like Sullivan, Divinity, Fehoko. Like I said, it would be a tough bet. It's definitely one of those not sure bets, but I could see your argument. Like, I could be convinced of that argument, but I also could see, oh boy, I don't know, maybe those guys kind of fall off, but yet they make roster. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I could see all those guys being undrafted rookies making a camp and possibly making all of them making rosters.
All right, make sure you're reading his stuff, theathletic.com/New Orleans, on Twitter @Larry Holder, draft coverage, insight, all that. Make sure you're getting it. Larry, we appreciate a couple of minutes, man. Best to you and your family, all right?
You too, buddy. Good talk, man. Good talk.